Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to tell you how to create a voice AI assistant which is available 24/7 for your business, can take calls on your behalf, and can also schedule appointments for you after checking for what times you are available, offering those times to the person who has called, and then booking that appointment for you, and doing all of this completely automatically without even a single manual intervention whatsoever. And before getting into the details of how to make it, let me show you a demo of how that exactly works. Here it is. Hello.
Hello, how can I assist you today? Are you looking to book a meeting?
Yes, I'm looking to book an appointment.
Great. Could you please provide me with your name and email address? Also, let me know your available times for the meeting.
My name is Rish, Rish, and my email ID is rish@talkflowai.com.
Thank you, Rish. Could you please provide me with your available times for the meeting?
Can you check for tomorrow 7 p.m.?
Checking availability for Rish for a meeting at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Unfortunately, the 7 p.m. slot is not available. However, I can offer you the following available times for tomorrow: 10 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Would you like to book one of these times?
I think 10 p.m. would be good.
Perfect. I will go ahead and book the meeting for you at 10 p.m. tomorrow. Just to confirm, here are the details. Name, Rish, date, August 9th, 2024, time 10 p.m. Email, rich@talkflowai.com. I'll proceed with the booking now.
Yes, thank you so much.
Booking a meeting for Rish at 10 p.m. tomorrow. Your appointment has been successfully booked for tomorrow, August 9th, 2024 at 10 p.m. If you need any further assistance, feel free to ask. Thank you, Rish.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You're welcome, Risha. Have a great day. Goodbye.
So you see how amazing it is, and the use cases can be infinite. For example, you are a doctor or a dentist or somebody who is having an offline store. Having a 24/7 available customer support for your business can do wonders. Also, when the customers call you, they don't have to wait in line for a person to be free to talk to them, because AI can handle a lot of simultaneous calls at scale without any hiccup. And not only just for incoming, this can also be used as a lead generation tool for outgoing calls. It can also be used as a follow-up assistant that can follow up with your existing customers. For example, if you are having a pet grooming store and you want to remind your existing customers that their annual pet checkup is due, you can just give them an automatic call, and those customers can book appointments with your clinic like the way I just showed in the demo. Or you can be a fitness coach and you want to follow up with your clients every single week or every single month, how they are doing, what problems they are facing. So instead of doing that manually, you can do all of that automatically by training and using what I'm going to teach you right now. And for that, we are going to use my favorite tool of automation, that is make.com. For voice, we can use Vapi or any other similar service. I have already done a video on how to set up Vapi. You can find the link of that somewhere in the description, and I'll highly recommend you to watch that before going forward in this video. So let's go make our automations. Okay, so I'm assuming that you have seen my previous video where I have explained how to set Vapi up for your voice AI assistant, and I'll move forward from that. So we log in again to Vapi and we come to this section called as tools. So to make a working AI assistant who can check for your availability on a phone call and then book the session, we need two main functions, or as Vapi calls it, two main tools. Okay, so first would be check availability tool, which will fetch all your available times for the date that is given to the AI assistant by your customer or by your client, and then it will check that date and time against your available options from your calendar, and then figure out if that date and time is available or matches the date and time that is offered by your client or your customer. That is step one. Step two would be, if that is true or if the times are available, then the bot will invoke this function or this tool, which is called make booking, and give an output that the booking was successful to the client. Okay, and if the times are not available, then it will also offer alternate times to the client which are available. The logic for that I'll tell you just in a bit. Okay, so make sure you first of all create both these tools. I'll just tell you how to create it by scratch. So we go to new tool and we go to make, because we are going to integrate make.com as our automation backend in here. I'll just leave it for now, because you will get this webhook URL after you make your make.com automation. So you can skip it right now, but once you have that URL, I'll tell you where to actually paste it so that the event gets into the correct webhook that listens for it. Okay, so just leave it for now, click next, and we have to define the property. Okay, so the first property would be name. Description would be the name of the customer. Okay, it would be string. We click save, we click new, and we have date of the booking. Okay, we click save, we'll have time, and we'll have time of the booking. Okay, and what else should we have? We should have email. Yes, email of the customer. Okay, so we should have all these properties passed inside this tool, and then this tool will be passed to our webhook, which is at make.com, and then the whole automation would be running in the background. All right, so we click next, and we'll just give it a name. Let's say I give a random name, Rish check availability, and description would be this function checks for my available times. Okay, I create it, and this way it will create this particular function. So here, as you can see, we have an integration URL, which we will just copy and paste from our make.com automation. And all of this is just fine. It will take the properties of date, name, time, and email from what the caller will give on the call while talking to our AI assistant. So I hope by now you know how to create a custom tool to call with an AI assistant. Okay, now when we go to assistant, I have this already set up for you. So this assistant would be a booking agent, and the system prompt should be this: you are a booking appointment agent, ask for available times and check your availability and book the meeting if the time is available. Okay, you can copy this whole prompt. You can just pause the video and copy this whole prompt, and this will be good enough if you want to just create a simple AI booking agent like I'm trying to teach you in this video. Now, even after this, the most important part would be to head to functions and make sure you have added these functions inside this particular booking agent. Because if you have not added any function here, the agent would not have any reference what to call, and it will just fail. Okay, so make sure whatever tools that you have made or are relevant for this particular agent, you make sure you select all of these and include it right here. Okay, so this is all what you have to do inside Vapi or any AI voice assistant model that you want to use as a backend. Now, the major thing is how would you create that automation which would be running in the background while this call is being made to your customer. Okay, and for that, we'll go to make.com and we'll create a new scenario. Okay, so this is my make.com scenario. I also have already published a video on how to create scenarios inside Make and how to set up your make.com account. The link would be somewhere in the description or somewhere around this video. Just make sure you know the basics of make.com before you jump into creating this new automation. Okay, so now before starting, one thing I really want to tell you is I did not choose Google Calendar as my API to book for slots or look for empty slots, because I have seen almost all of the videos that have been made on this particular topic using a very simple Google FreeBusy API for figuring out what the slots are, what are the availabilities, and then booking them. Nobody has tried to create this automation with some other advanced tools like Calendly or cal.com, or in my case, NeetoCal, which is an extremely easy to use and free calendar booking software that I have come across. Okay, the reason for that is most of these big tools like Calendly and Cal.com do not have an API to book free slots. If I go to Calendly API, this is the Calendly API page, and you can see all of these APIs are possible, which is availability, data compliance, event types, groups, scheduling events, scheduling links. Even in scheduling events, you do not have any API to book an event. And that's bizarre. Like Calendly does not give you even an option to book an event with an API. And when I tried to search for it, I ended up to a Stack Overflow question, this Calendly API booking meetings for a user. So this user also has the same question, that he was not able to find an API which can create a meeting for a user. And this was an answer from a person who works at Calendly, and there is not an API to schedule events at all. Even after update 1, there is still not a public API, and even after update 2, there is still not a booking API by Calendly, right? So you can have list users busy time, or you can list user availability schedules, but you cannot book a meeting by Calendly API. I think that's bizarre. That's stupid, right? And even if I go to the nearest tool, which is cal.com, and I go to the cal documentation, and if I see the API and I see quick start, errors, rate limits, all of that. Okay, so this is the API reference, right? If I go to booking, here you can have get all bookings, correct? You can have, yes, this is a create a new booking, which is a post API. But the important point, this API reference is under the enterprise feature. So if you are a person or a freelancer or somebody who's a single person who's trying to get things up, you cannot create a booking through any of these API reference point, and your only option could be just a very simple Google Calendar API. And the reason I do not prefer that is scheduling is complicated. It's not like you can have your whole day available and somebody can book a meeting for one slot, which is free, right? You can work with people across the globe of different time zones. You should have your availability set for a person who's in Australia, somebody who's in the US, somebody who's in India. Those clients have different time zones, and you can choose to have different availabilities for different people. You can choose to have different booking URLs, like different details about an event. You can choose to have paid URLs for some people, and you can also choose to send them reminders before the meeting using all these custom tools versus just a Google Calendar link. And I think the most important thing is these tools like cal.com or Calendly enable you link other tools like Zoom to your meetings, which Google Calendar does not support, right? So because all these tools offer so much control and so much refinement on my meetings, I wanted to use all of them, but there is simply just not an option, right? But there is one tool which is called NeetoCal, which is this, and this tool is just wonderful, right? It has all the features which you can find on all these tools like Calendly or cal.com or other premium ones, and all of them are for free. You can also link your Stripe accounts and take payments from your customers in NeetoCal without any paid plans. Okay, and the cherry on the cake is they offer APIs which are extremely simple and which also allow you to check your availabilities and then to book your meeting on that available slot. Isn't that amazing? This is why I'm going to teach you to go with NeetoCal rather than going with just a simple Google Calendar automation, because that is very simple to do, but this is a very effective and a very customizable method to do the same thing, which is what we want to do. Okay, so I think you should sign up for NeetoCal. I'll give the URL link in the description. And with NeetoCal, let's go to the NeetoCal API. Okay, so we search for it, NeetoCal API, and we go here. Okay, and this are all the APIs that NeetoCal is offering, right? So you can check for available slots, you can make a booking, you can reschedule a booking, you can cancel, you can list, and you can edit your availability as well. None of these things are available on any of the free plans inside Cal or inside Calendly, and I'm sure not in any other scheduling platform as well. Okay, so once you are okay with this and once you have signed up for this, just go to your API keys settings and you go to API keys and you click an API key and create an API key like that. I already have one, so this is the one we'll be using. Now we come back to make.com automations. Okay, so this would be the availability check automation in make.com. Okay, so the first node will be the custom webhook, which will give you a URL like this. If you have this blank, don't worry, you can just add a new webhook and give it a name, any name that you would want to give it, which you can remember moving forward that this webhook is used for this particular automation. Okay, so we close this and we have this webhook URL that we have to paste inside our Vapi tool for availability check automation. Okay, so we copy this and we go back to Vapi. We have to paste the check availability webhook inside this integration. So we click here and we paste our hook right here. Okay, so and we click save. So now Vapi knows that whenever this check availability tool is invoked, Vapi has to send all of this data to this webhook inside Make. And once this webhook is received, what Make needs to do next is what I'm going to tell you right now. The next node is just a simple HTTP node, which is make an API auth request. Okay, so if I click this, this is the availability check API from NeetoCal that we will be using. So first of all, we'll have to add credentials. So you can add your credentials with NeetoCal. So you can have the NeetoCal API key, which you had just created inside the NeetoCal dashboard. And everything remains as they are. So you have to place it in the header and you have to give it the parameter called X API key. How do we know this is the one that we have to give? Because in Neeto documentation, you can see the header should be X API key. Okay, and the description should be bearer token for API access. So whatever format is here in X API key, you have to use the exact same format. Otherwise, you would receive an error. Okay, so we go back to make and we had already created a key like that. So we'll check this out. Now, how do we know what to have in the URL inside our GET request? So we go back to documentation. Let me just put the documentation side by side. Okay, right. So let me do this like that. Okay, so we go to we have to make an available slot GET request. So available slot is right here and the base URL should be your organization.neetocal.com/API/external/v1. Okay, so this would be my base API URL. Okay, now the endpoint would be meeting slug and slots. So my meeting slug here is TalkFlow AI onboarding, right? So this is the slug that is basically which I have entered when creating a new meeting inside NeetoCal, right? Let me show you that as well. So I go to NeetoCal, TalkFlow AI onboarding, right? So this is called the meeting slug or the meeting link. Link is equal to slug in the language of internet, maybe. Okay, so I use this particular slug inside my GET request URL. Okay, so we go here and we put that slug right here. Okay, now to verify this is exactly what would be going forward. We just see an example inside the NeetoCal documentation. Okay, so the GET request URL should be something like organization.neetocal.com/API/external/v1/slots/meeting whatever slug, right? So my name NeetoCal/API external v1 slots and the slug. So this is all correct. Okay, now the method would be get because it says that it should be get. Okay, now very important is to understand what query parameters are required to send an API request to NeetoCal or any other API that you are using in future, right? So there are three parameters that NeetoCal requires. One is time zone, one is year, and one is month. Okay, you might think that year or month are numbers, so we should use a type number. Also, when we set these in Vapi, we selected string for everything and not numbers, because that is the way that the API accepts these kind of formats, right? It might be logically wrong, but that's the correct way for this particular API. And also see that these are required, which means that even if one is missing, you would have an error. So you have to pass through all of these at once. You cannot skip any of these in your request. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll add a query string, and by default, all of these would be empty. You have to click this add parameter and then name it like, name it exactly how it is named right here. Okay, so if the time zone is time_zone, you can't write time zone as a single text. That would be giving you an error, right? So you have to type it like time_zone. Okay, and the value would be whatever time zone is passed. So if I zoom out a little bit, oops. So the value would be whatever time zone has been passed from the webhook, because that is the question that we would have asked from our user with our AI caller. Okay, so we just drag and drop this value right here, and similarly I will add name as a parameter, and I'll take name from here. And what else? Sorry, name is not there. Extremely important. We don't need name for checking the availability. We only need time zone, year, and month. Okay, so we take year and we. Okay, so here you would be encountering your first problem. Okay, because the webhook format for the year is something like this, and the NeetoCal's accept format for the year is just the number of that year and nothing else. So you cannot pass this value directly. You have to do something to this value so that you can only trim this part and only pass this part inside your request and just throw away all the other parts. And how do we do that? We do that by something called as functions. There is a function called substring inside make.com, which basically cuts off everything inside a string that you passed. And by this example, you can see that if the whole string is hello and we pass 0 and 3, it will just output the values which is between 0 and third position inside this string. Only HEL is the string that we have to get, because this is our logic, right? Similarly, if I change the values from 0 and 3 to 1 and 3, it will give us only EL. Okay, so what we do is we put the same logic inside our date. So we have to only cut first 4 digits from our whole date to get the value of our year. Okay, so we do substring and we put the whole date and we put a logic 0 to 4, which means we only have to cut the first 4 digits from the whole date. Okay, so this will just do the job for us. And similarly for the month, we just have to cut this 08 part out of the whole date. Okay, so we do the substring and we do 5 and 7, which means it will take away everything from this string and the output would be only 08, which is our month. Okay, and time zone value should be coming from this webhook as a whole. It doesn't matter because this is the format which NeetoCal accepts. So you can just check here. Yes, you can just check here. It can accept the whole time zone as a format. Okay, so we click OK. Now we have to get a ChatGPT node next, in which I will just choose a model which is GPT-4o mini, I think, which is a reasonably good format. And I will tell the role of the system, which is basically what the role of this ChatGPT node is, that you are a JSON parser. Okay, so you'll be given a JSON of all the available times for a calendar, right? Extract all the start times for this date and output in JSON format. Keep the same format of time as in data and only output values in valid JSON format like these, right? What would happen right now is we are passing a date and name and time zone inside this webhook, and we are checking the availability for this particular year and month. Okay, but there is no way to check the availability for a particular date. And that is why we are using ChatGPT node here, because we want to have only the start times for this particular date, which we have gotten from our webhook, not everything in that month. We are not interested in all the dates available for a particular month. We only want the available dates for that particular date or day. So this is why after having all the available dates of that month from NeetoCal, we just have to filter only the available dates and especially only the start time for that particular date which the customer has asked for, right? We are not interested in the whole range of the time which is available. We are only interested in the start time which is available. And this is also the reason I chose NeetoCal, because inside NeetoCal, inside my meeting, I can set up how much should be the meeting's duration. So it could be 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, doesn't matter. I don't have to change that setting every time inside make scenario. I can do the change in my NeetoCal meeting and everything would be working very smoothly without changing anything inside make.com scenario, because here we are concerned only with the start time. Okay, so we export the start times in this format. This is the date which was passed from this webhook, and these are the start times that are available for that date inside our calendar. Okay, and the next ChatGPT module is to parse the times that we have gotten from the earlier node as JSON to a very simple one-line thing with a comma, right? This is because in the next step, we have to figure out if the time that is asked by a customer is in this list or not. And if the time is in this list, it simply means that the time is available, and that if the time is not in that list, it doesn't exist or it is not available. Okay, so we do this and we put a router and we put a filter which says that if the time which is from here, where is it? 1 args time. Yeah. So this is args and this is time. Yes. So if this time is inside this content, which is 82, this one, which is in this message content, right? So if this time is in this result, then logically it means that the time is available, right? And it will go here and it will give the output that this time is available to the AI assistant, which is Vapi's voice, right? And I'll include a filter here, which is if the time is not available here, which means if this message does not contain the time that is given by the webhook, it simply means that the time does not exist and we don't have availability for that time, and we will just put that this time is not available, but you can book for these times. This is very interesting because we not only have to say no, that this time is not available, we also have to give alternate times that are available to the user, right? Because if we just say that no, this time is not available, that's a very that's a very wrong automation. It just doesn't work. So not only you have to say that this time is not available, but you have to also pass the times which are also available, which would be simply the content which are in this message, which are these, which we just checked were the available times. Okay. I hope you understood all of this. I purposely explained everything and not just rush through templates and told you this and that. I have to make sure that you understand how things are working, because otherwise it's very easy. I can give you these exported JSONs and you can just import inside your make.com scenarios. But if you don't know how things work, it's possible that something will break in future and you would not know how to fix it, right? Even then, I will export all of these JSONs like blueprints from make, and I'll put them somewhere so that you can just import them and see if it works for you. Okay, so now the availability check is done, and even now only half the battle is won. Now the next part is how to book our appointments, right? So for that, we'll go to the next automation, which is for the booking the appointment. Okay, so we go back, and interestingly, booking the appointment is extremely simple as compared to checking for an appointment, right? So for this, we'll have another webhook, and for this webhook, this would be our URL. We'll copy this. We go back to Vapi. And we go back to make booking, because this is where we have to make the booking. We go to integration and we paste our URL right here, which is the webhook URL for making the booking. Okay, so we save it, and now we completely save our tool, and now we are ready. So this tool would pass all of these informations to this webhook URL, And then what would make.com do with this webhook is what we'll learn next. So we come back here, and here you can just have a set variable node between the webhook and NeetoCal, in which you can store all the details that are required to book that meeting for the slot that was confirmed by the available booking webhook, which we just learned prior to this. Okay, so in this tool, we have to pass three main variables. First is time zone, which can be taken from here, or you can just hard code it. Doesn't matter. If you are only focusing on people in one time zone, you can hard code it. If you are taking this AI assistant to multiple time zones, you can just take this time zone from right here. Both of these would be doing the same thing. Okay. Next is meeting slug. This is important because meeting slug can change depending upon which customer is getting your call or who is calling from which service or asking for which service. So depending upon for which particular agency or which particular business you are building this particular bot for, you can change your slug URL, which I told you is the exact same URL which is for your that particular meeting inside make.com. And here the API key would be your NeetoCal API key, which you had created inside your NeetoCal dashboard. And now we create an auth request node for NeetoCal. Okay, now we come back to the NeetoCal documentation, and we see if you click for make a booking, this is how making a booking requires the data to be passed as, right? So you can see there are a lot more data that needs to be passed versus the availability request, but don't be afraid. I'll tell you how to do exactly every single thing in this API. Okay, so the first thing is what should be the URL. So this should be the URL, which is the base URL in which organization NeetoCal API external v1. Okay, and the endpoint should be bookings. Okay, so we have done exactly that. This is our main URL, which is the base URL like this, and the endpoint should be bookings, which is like this. Okay, and the method should be post, which is right here. Don't select get method here because booking an appointment is always a post method of HTTP request. Okay, now we'll pass all the data that we use inside our body type, right? So we select body as raw, we'll select content type as JSON, application JSON, and we will pass all these values as a JSON. If you want, you can just pause the video and copy exactly this. And so far, if you have been seeing this video carefully, you will not be shocked by seeing all of these names and wondering where these come from, because these are coming from the documentation, which is right here. Okay, and all of these are required, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are required. One of them is not required, so we'll just skip it, right? So all of these meeting slug right here, name, email, slot date, slot start time, right? Slot underscore start underscore time. Okay, so all of these will need to be passed inside this particular request node, which on passing will give you a message which says the appointment was booked successfully, right? And this is how everything would work. So you have to have two webhooks which are listening in the background. One is for the appointment availability and second is for appointment booking. Okay, let me also show you some historical bookings that I have done from here, so you get an idea how the kind of data that is being pushed inside these webhooks. So this was a meeting that I had made, and you can see the example data. So this was the example data that I passed in this particular webhook. So this is what I actually told the AI assistant on the call, and it converted my speech to text and it passed all of these variables. And why did it pass all of these? Because we had defined all of these right here inside make a booking variable, and we have told that pass all of these variables in this format, right? So the advantage of having LLMs is that you can just tell the LLM that I want the data in this format, and it will automatically create that format for you and pass it through your JSON data webhook format. Okay, now we go back to make, and this is the data that we had passed. This came here, and here we do not have anything to change because these are just the variables that we had put inside our automation. And here what it did was the query string was this, right? So see, the query string was here My name was here, my email was here, my time zone was here, date and time was also here. Now what it did was it created a booking for me for that particular time, because that time was available as it was checked from the earlier automation. Okay, so it was confirmed, and then the final message was the appointment was booked for this particular date and time, and that was the final point at which your appointment was booked. Okay, so that was it. I hope it was not very difficult, because I don't want you to just copy any tutorial and just paste it in your project, because that would only lead to problems. I want you to understand how things work, and working with API sometimes can be challenging, because even if you miss like a slash, everything just throws error on your face. And if you don't know how things work on a very basic level, you cannot figure out how to remove that error in future. Okay, so I think the main takeaways would be to learn how to work with APIs, to make sure how to abide with the type of format that an API accepts, and only pass that format, because otherwise you will just be getting errors, right? And then to figure out how to convert the data that you are getting, which is not in that format, to that format in which you can pass it to the API. And for that, we have used ChatGPT. And you can use NeetoCal because it offers all the API endpoints which are required for such a service, which is especially making a booking or booking a slot, which other services of calendars simply do not offer. And that is how you can create an online 24/7 available customer support AI for your business. I hope it helps. Drop in your comments if you have anything to say, and I'll see you in the next one.